Hi guys, welcome back to another P3D version 5 video. We are today flying the A2A Bf 109. I think it's actually, I'm not sure, I don't think they were called A2A back in the day. I think, or maybe they were, but I think this add-on was called Wings of Power, if I'm not mistaken. Let me check actually so I get this right. Yeah, I think Wings of Power was the name. And you can still buy this actually from their website, but it might be a bit tricky to find, and I'm just gonna quickly show you this before I continue this. I think it's in the FS09 products or FS 2004, and you'll find it here with a bunch of other aircraft. You'll find it up here. So the Wings of Power 2, the Bf 109, and there's also a the reason why it works in P3D version 5 is because there's a hotfix that makes it available in FSX. So once you buy it, you'll also get an FSX version. Not very expensive and pretty decent aircraft. But this is of course before their kind of AccuSim add-ons, so it's not to the same standard. So something to keep in mind. And the plan is today to fly this aircraft from Saint-Inglevert or Inglevert, which is a bit to the west of Calais, and we're gonna be flying kind of, I'm gonna show you, it's easier that way. We're gonna be flying out towards the sea and then turn right and then come back and, and land here in Calais, Dunkirk. So both of these were German airfields at this time, and they seem to still be airfields. Maybe not totally aligning with how the old airfield or how the new airfield is placed. I think it might be this direction, but let's see once we get there. And then the idea is that once we get here, maybe we'll pause the recording and I'll switch to another plane, and then we can just do the same flight but backwards. Probably another German, but I haven't, or another German plane, but I haven't yet decided which one. We're either gonna do I think this Milvis the Stuka, potentially the aeroplane heaven, the Heinkel, or maybe one of the Focke Wulfs from Classics. I think it's called Classics Hangar. Let me check. Oh, sorry, I'm gonna open the wrong one. I think it. Not that one. That's my list of aircraft. Oh, actually, that's the one I want. Yeah, Classics Hangar. Perfect. So we might try that as well, just to showcase it, kind of. And yeah, let me just quickly close here so we don't get the bottom bar thingy. I don't know why, but it's always like when I open up a browser and put it up here, you'll see kind of the bottom of that. But I guess that's because I'm playing in windowed mode. But yeah, here we have the nice from Sim Outhouse scenery. I mean, it's not perfect, but it's pretty nice. Some Bf 110s placed there, some trucks, some cannons. It looks like this building looks like a newer one, so potentially I would or should add some exclusion. Might not work either though, so that's something to keep in mind. But apart from that, yeah, we have some hangars here. They look to be empty though, but there's some guys sitting in chairs, relaxing. I guess getting ready to intercept enemy bombers. Or maybe this is actually 1940 and we're patrolling the English Channel. The Battle of Britain is ongoing. I guess that would make more sense since we're flying the E3 version, I think. I think they have the E4 and the E3 in the Wings of Power / A2A Bf 109. I think the later ones are available through flight replicas as well, so that's an option. I don't have those, but they do look pretty neat. But yeah, what can I say about the Bf-109? One of the most built aircrafts, if I'm not mistaken. And let me open Wikipedia here quickly. Monoplane fighter aircraft, designed and initially produced by Bayerische Flugzeugwerke BFW, and it formed the backbone together with the Focke Wulf 190 of the Luftwaffe's fighter force during the Second World War, commonly referred to as ME-109 by Allied aircrew. Was produced between 1935 and, oh, it doesn't say, oh, because there were some derivatives produced in Spain, for example. And I think those derivatives were the ones that were used in that movie Battle of Britain that was released in the 60s or 70s. But almost 35,000 were produced, retired by the Luftwaffe on the 9th of May 1945 for obvious reasons. But yeah, apart from that, anything interesting here? I think if I remember correctly from EL2 Sturmovik, it features some sort of stabilizer system. I'm not sure P3D implements that, or maybe P3D could have an implementation of that, but I don't think this add-on has that, so you're just using normal trim. What else? As you can see, we also have the yellow nose, which I think was a very prominent feature here in the beginning of the war. The later models I actually prefer in terms of cockpit, and I'll show you soon once we jump in. Let me see, can we see how many variants were built? Nah, nothing specific on that. Oh yeah, here actually, number, production. So the E3, 1,276, E4, 561. The most built version was the F4 with almost 2,000 planes. Then the G2 with almost 1,600, the G4 with 1,200. Or sorry, actually the G, no, those were not close to the most produced ones. The G6 were like produced crazy amounts, like 12,000 of them. Jesus Christ. And the G14 also produced 5,500 plus. They really got their production up there from 1943. I think that was, or a lot of it is attributed to Albert Speer, but yeah, crazy amounts. They should have probably started that earlier if they wanted to have a chance, but yeah, always easier to say that in hindsight. But yeah, I have not added any PBR or similar to this aircraft. I figured it looked a bit better. It got a bit too glossy for a fighter aircraft, which I guess should look a bit rugged. I do think this is a livery that comes with the aircraft. I know some planes don't have, for example, the swastika, which I guess makes sense. Or I guess it makes sense if you're selling to, let's say, a German crowd where it's not allowed. But this one seems to have it, you know, pretty okay detail for a FS 2004 aircraft originally. We have the pilot in here, and you can see a bit of the cockpit. And we're hiding here beneath this little shelter, I guess. And yeah, not much else to say. I think what we'll do is get started, taxi out, and then get going. There's not really any, we're not going to use any ATC or similar. It's more of a just, you know, showcasing the aircraft. Maybe it's something you want to buy. It's not that expensive, right? So it might be worth the shot. But yeah, here we have our views. I think they should all be set up pretty nicely. Let me have a look. I think I've forgotten to do the transitions. So let's remove those while we're at it. But yeah, well, there's some nice views, as you can see. We'll go to the normal spot view, and then we'll jump into the captain view, which is our only inboard view. Well, you can see we have a pretty clickable cockpit. I don't think everything is clickable though. So if you're expecting kind of the same standard as their later aircrafts, the A2A1s, you're probably not gonna get that. Here we have the radiator flap. It does seem to could of course be limitations between the sims. Seems like it has some different settings. I do think, let me actually check with AI if it says anything. About that radiator. Let me see if we have any input about this, but I guess we want it open in order to lower the temps. Let me see. The radiator temperature. Okay, so I guess that's related to the piston engine that we're running. You have the battery switch here. You have the magneto here, and you should be able to move these between the different ones. We're going to keep it on both. The big minus with this aircraft is the lack of an attitude indicator. We have this magnetic compass, but it's an awful thing to use for or to substitute as attitude indicator, so that makes it quite hard to fly in clouds. I've switched now to the 3D clouds, so the volumetric ones, but we don't seem to have that many clouds up here, so should be fine, but let's see if that changes as we get going. We have a prop control, which I think we can control ourselves. We're just going to keep it on full. We also have and let me see if we can get this. Yeah, we have the sunglass there that we can open. Not certain about the button for the actual gun sight. I figured it would be somewhere here, but since some of these don't seem to be clickable, could be that I'm missing it. We have the primer here. We have the harness release there. Not sure it does too much, but I guess you can close or put off the harness. We have the oxygen altitude valve there. We can check what our fuel, and yeah, it's all 100%. There's not really any. We have one shift one switch, which will give you these, and you do actually have an autopilot, but pretty unrealistic. I guess that's just for simplicity. Same with the GPS, but that's about it in terms of the different systems. Here you have the avionics master switch, which is on, the fuel pump auto switch. I think this was trim indicator light, pitot heat. Not sure if this one, can't even remove it, but oh well. Navigation light switches, those are on. So I think we should see a light, but I can't see it. Maybe we need to start the engine first. You have the MGs, and let's see what else do we have here. Here we have the fuselage, or fuel selector, sorry. I think you should also have the canopy latch here, so we can open the canopy, which is pretty cool. And I guess these kind of features are the reason why you would want to fly this Bf-109 in P3D instead of, let's say, EL Sturmovik, just to, you know, have the clickable cockpit or fly in the area where you would want to fly, right? We have throttle controls, oil cooler, flap, and then not sure about the flap switch. I tried to move it, but I just get some squealing. Let's see once we get going if that works. Most things do seem to work, sound-wise as well, even though these buttons get stuck, but yeah, they do seem to work. Here at the master ignition switch, it's already on. The fuel control switch is open. You can see our trim here, which I guess works kind of similar. Here's our flap actually. But yeah, nothing is happening now, so maybe we need to start first. So we'll get going with that, and it's kind of easy. I guess we can prime it a couple of times and then pull out, and there it goes. So yeah, maybe not 100% realistic, but you know, at least you get to pull some switches. And we can now actually check with the flaps. Doesn't seem to do anything. So I guess the best way to do this is by moving it down manually. Okay, so we're now on 10 degrees flaps. The trim we can move, and that one seems to be connected, so that's good at least. The pedo ones are already pressed in. Oh, I think that's how you push them out, right? You press this above button. And here you have the oxygen master valve, but we're not going to touch that, we're not going to be flying that high. But yeah, since we don't have the AccuSim, it's generally not that many things to check. This is more, let's say, light in that sense. I still assume, though, it's the best Bf-109. Maybe the Flight Replicas one is good. I'm not a big fan of the Flight Replicas plane. You know, good flight model and all, but maybe a bit on the system side, a bit light. Specifically their DC-4, which I've tried to fly a couple of times, but it's kind of hard to do that one since you have the airplane DC-3 and the PMDG DC-6, which is very good. But let's see, maybe I'll have to give it a chance at some point. In terms of other things you can control, here you have the altimeter calibration knob. We can check what the 1019 millibars, let's put that in. I don't think there's anything else we can kind of scroll here. Here you have the landing gear lever and the emergency gear handle, and here we have the fuel pump switch. Not sure, seems to be off. I'm gonna assume that it should be on, right? So yeah, but some things maybe not, doesn't make sense. But like I said, keep in mind, very old add-on. Kind of interesting though how such a kind of long life it's had. So you can still fly it in P3 version 5, probably even in version 6. So that's pretty crazy. Imagine buying this 20 years ago almost and still being able to fly. Hell, might be even older than that. But okay, we'll start. We'll release the parking brakes. This should be a differential aircraft, but I think, or differential braking kind of aircraft since it's a tail dragger. I'm not sure though we have anything for. It kind of works anyway, I think. Let's see though if we might have a switch for that here somewhere. No switches down here. Nullschuss, not sure what that stands for. But yeah, we're just gonna taxi onto the runway and then we're gonna take off, I think. I think that's gonna ensure we don't take too long. But yeah, it seems to be able to kind of turn pretty well, so at least the taxiing seems pretty nice. Not sure if there's, but there is a tail wheel switch in the real aircraft, right? At least in L2 Sturmovik it has one, but that might just be. Nah, but that must be correct. They wouldn't add that otherwise, I think. Okay, so let's line up. We're gonna take off. We're gonna go to the right so we can fly from the airport. We're turning to 315 degrees. We're gonna fly for 10 nautical miles, but it's not that precise, right? We're just gonna fly out and then turn right. So we're gonna start to slowly throttle up. And let's see if we can get this bird. It definitely feels maybe a bit light in the model compared to both Isle-2 Cliffs of Dover. Oh, I know what happened there. My gear handle was up, so it it immediately, once I left the ground, started pulling it up. There we go. Thank God we were able to get off at least, but yeah, always check your gear handle, specifically if you're using the Bravo honeycomb throttle. The interesting part, though, I'm not sure, maybe the later versions, but they should have like an automated prop system, so I'm just gonna keep it on fully now, and then we'll continue climbing. Let's have a look at our speed. It's a bit low, but we do also have the flaps still. So we're gonna bring those up completely to 0 degrees. And I'm gonna turn right so we can get to the airport again. But yeah, without the attitude indicator and without any kind of vertical speed indicator, it's pretty hard to know the angle you're flying. Or at least I find it kind of difficult. Yeah, we do have an instrument panel switch. Doesn't seem to work. I'm gonna assume it's tied to it being night, which it is not at this point. But yeah, it flies pretty nicely, not gonna lie. I'm gonna take a nice thumbnail, I think, from here. Looks pretty good. Because I always forget to do that. And let's try to see, are we? Yeah, we're flying on top of the airport now. We're flying 315. So I think something like this. That makes sense. Going out into the English Channel. And we're almost at 1 kilometer. So this is a very nimble aircraft, very fast. You can also see kind of how it looks. It's very sleek design. Maybe a bit blocky if you compare it to something like the Spitfire, but not that bad. We're gonna trim down a bit, because I don't wanna go too high on the altitude. And maybe even if it doesn't have Aku Sim, or not, it's not one of the Aku Sim models, it does have Aku Feel, right? The other option. So I think that adds sounds and some other effect, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, let's see, we don't want to descend, we want to keep on flying. You can see some boats here, a bit unrealistic. I think it's tankers as well, so you wouldn't have those those types of ships at this point. I don't think they had standardized. Here we even have a ferry, very modern. Very modern. I guess what we could do is do a low bypass over one of these boats. Let's see, I'm gonna climb a bit again. We picked up quite a bit of speed. I'm gonna pull back a bit on the throttle. I don't think we wanna push this one too much. One of the things why I also went to the volumetric clouds is that the performance is much better with the sim. And it's not because of ASCA or Active Sky, it's actually Rex. Rex is really, uh, really demanding actually. I lose a couple of FPS because of Rex. So I've been thinking about actually removing it because I can't really fly through any interesting weather anyway because it's, or I can fly through it, but it's not enjoyable, right? And then what's the point? That's why you fly the sim, right? To have it enjoyable. Something to keep in mind. And we're coming down quite quickly now. We did turn a bit soon, I would say. That was definitely not 10 nautical miles, more like 4, if even that. Let's climb a bit. In terms of the, let me see actually, do I have Google Maps? And let's not crash into the water whilst I'm trying to multitask. Not my strongest suit. Can't really feel the aircraft. That's the problem. And here we have a couple of more tankers. So quite busy area, this one. Let me see, can I get my... maybe I have to search for it. Nah, I'm not a big fan of my tablet. In some ways I can actually, or prefer Apple in some regards. Some of these Androids aren't as intuitive. Some are really good though, but here we go. Google Earth. Let's see if we can get that running. Having an EFB and flying a Bf-109, that's very realistic, but oh well. Could be worse. Let's just open the weather ships one, because I'm not, or I just want to get into the map so I can get some visuals on how it should look here around Dunkirk and Calais. So Calais should be visible. It might be this city here, right? There should be a harbor. It's likely that one. So that's probably Calais. So we'll fly a bit further, but we're then gonna turn right. We'll maybe fly just past that little boat there, and then we can turn back in. But yeah, looks pretty nice, this aircraft, and it flies, you know, okay-ish. I'm gonna assume though it's like a default model plane, right? It's not based on any outside model or flight model, so that's something to keep in mind. But it does, well, it does work. Not all of these default model planes are bad, right? It's just different, I guess. In terms of, let's say if we could use P3D as a fighting World War II platform, the default model might actually not be that bad. I think some talk about inertia being a bit missing, but I don't... or I think it depends a lot on the aircraft, to be honest. But I don't think it's as bad as they say. I mean, a flight simulator still has to produce, I guess, somewhat realistic flight dynamics. Okay, let's get to that boat, and then we'll turn to the right and go in for the landing. We're actually flying kind of around 67 degrees, which was the plan. We were gonna fly it for 16.4 nautical miles, which I think we might have been accomplishing. wonderful aircraft, some of these World War II fighters, very kind of iconic looking. And then when you consider kind of how short the time period we had, I mean, if there wasn't going to be a World War II, who knows, we might never have seen decent actions. But of course, likewise, I guess we might never have seen jets, because I guess that was partly developed as quickly as it was due to World War II, right? Okay, I'm gonna add a bit of thrust, but yeah, look at that. You wouldn't see those type of ships during World War II. Okay, we're now turning to 140 degrees. Oh, yeah, the compass isn't really the best one. We need to turn a bit more, I think. Or actually a bit more like towards this direction. And I think what we have in front of us now is actually not Dunkirk, but a bit to the left, or to the west of Dunkirk. There's or actually there's I think it's an industrial area, so probably part of Dunkirk. I'm not sure if it was there back in the olden days, but it's here now. But I think Dunkirk should just be a bit to this area, and this is, I guess, the industrial part. But we're not gonna fly all the way there. We're gonna fly here and then turn right, and then start planning for our landing. It's gonna be a bit ad hoc, since I'm not 100% certain about the airport's location, to be honest. We can check here, or I know where the airport is, but the old airport in terms of the angle of the runway. We can though start to slow down quite a bit, I think. Let's see actually if we use the flap. Does this lead to anything? Now we get the sound of the flaps, but we don't get any actual flaps movement. Not with some of these other buttons either. Let's see now. Yeah, so here we have industrial areas, Dunkirk a bit further over there, or at least the main city of Dunkirk. And then to the right here we're gonna find Le Airport Calais. And the main thing we're just looking for right now is of course the location of the runway. And let me check the speed we're flying. We're flying okay. I think we're just gonna try to identify the airport before we make any attempt to land. Or maybe not identify the airport, but at least identify the runway. But here it doesn't look too bad. I mean, I guess you could pretty quickly tell it's modern times with the tankers, but I don't see any wind. Well, there's some power plants, but that I guess would be the same during the old days. Now let me see if we can find this airport. It should be kind of straight ahead. We're now flying at let me see, 25, yeah, 246 actually. We're flying very much the right course, but we haven't really followed our flight plan, to be honest. But it should be around here. Or did we fly much longer than we thought? Nah, can't be. Or could it? Or did we fly shorter than we planned? Well, I guess not impossible. You can see here though that we're very much on the spot. Ah, here we go. That's the airport. Yeah, you can see it's very different. Here's the photo reel, right? A bit funny how there's, I guess, a bit of trees over the new runway. But yeah, here's the airport, and there's some aircraft here. Couldn't really see what it was, but I guess BF 110s maybe. Okay, so at 150, I think we can come in from the other direction. That should be fine. Might even be better. So let's do a turn and come in for landing. One annoying thing with this aircraft though is that kind of the viewpoint isn't that nice to set up, so basically I'm always seeing through the windows on my right and left screen compared to my middle one, which is of course a bit annoying. Now the funny part is that I'm not actually using the flap, but they are still coming down with the use of my lever, so I'm not sure how I managed to activate them. But technically we might be coming in a bit too fast. But hopefully it should be fine. We're gonna slow down. And we can see the airport there. We're gonna make a left turn. It's time, I think, to start dropping the gears. Not sure how realistic those sounds are. Very much default sounds. Could be, of course, that it's not. Maybe I've been hearing the wrong sounds in Elstormovik, but I think generally, I mean, Cliffs of Dover, really good sounds. Okay, let's see, we want to be at around 225 for the approach, and then for landing at around 175. If I'm not mistaken. Okay, let's see, we're coming in here pretty smoothly. Yeah, we're gonna have a bit of a crosswind, nothing too much though, just tiny amounts from the south, or I guess southeast to be exact. Okay, slowing down a bit more. Let's see if we're able to slow down enough. Let's see if we can land this bird better than when we took off. At least we have the gear lever down now, so when we switch plane it's gonna be a lot easier, or hopefully we're not gonna end up in the same situation. Okay, adding a bit of thrust. I don't wanna end up going too slow either. Okay, slowing down. Yeah, a bit of a bounce. That's fine. That's typical for me landing the Bf 109. We're gonna be braking a bit. It's definitely harder in P3D to know if you're braking enough or not. But I think we managed to stop here before the end of the runway. Let's see, can we see any aircrafts here? There's definitely some hangars. Some German soldiers here. Doesn't look to be too many. Let's go to the right here and check if there's any models. It does add a bit to the immersion, seeing some different models. One fun thing about the airport we departed from is that was actually the airport where this one was stationed in real life, actually, Saint-Inglevert. So exactly this or the plane that this one is trying to emulate. Fun fact of the day. And I think we can maybe look at that. We have the maybe this could be due to the exclusions. Maybe I should have a look at that, see if we can add something. But yeah, pretty neat scenery, nevertheless. Also pretty good flying weather in terms of there being no clouds. Perfect kind of VFR conditions. So great for flying these old birds. Now let's see if what we can fly as the next step. And look at that. I think that's a Bf 109, right? Yeah, looks like it. So what I'm gonna do, I'm actually gonna turn here, I think. Not sure if I can park into one of these. I guess you would be pushed in, right? I doubt they would have you try to get inside one of those tents. So we're gonna park in front of it, and then we're gonna pause and switch aircraft, and then go back to Saint-Inglevert, which might, well, it shouldn't be more difficult, but it's definitely less, I guess, less noticeable airport compared to the Calais one, which is kind of easy to find with the city. Let's see, the best way, I guess, I would think it would be the fuel pump, but it could be maybe here, you could shut it. Yeah. So you could cut it like that, right? We can turn off the magnetos. The pitot, right? Trim indicator light. Master ignition. Battery switch. So yeah, hopefully you enjoyed seeing this aircraft in P3D. Great, great model. A lot of fun. I was very happy when I was able to find one of these that worked in P3D version 5. So I'm gonna pause quickly now, and then let's see what I can find. So see you in a jiffy. There we go, and we are back, and we are flying the now freeware Focke Wulf 190 A1 by Classics Hangar. It's I think it was originally payware, but it's been freeware at least the last couple of years, and it's an FSX native model, but it does work in P3D version 5. It's not possible, unfortunately, to add PBR, because I couldn't at least get the compilation of the model to work with Model Converter, but it's a pretty good looking model. I haven't looked for any other liveries. As you can see, there's no swastikas on this one, so maybe not the most historically accurate liveries, in other words, but you know, looks pretty good nevertheless. And this aircraft, let me see, I'm gonna check Wikipedia again, not the best source, but pretty decent, was also pretty much mass produced. Over 20,000 of them were built between 1941 and 45. They were in use until 1949 in France. They I think they were known for having a very good engine, right? That's why the engine, I mean, it's not the sleek design that you see on the Bf 109. So let me see. Oh, here's actually an interesting fact. So the A series, which we're doing now, was actually not that good as high altitude interceptors, because its performance decreased at high altitudes, which was updated with some turbo supercharged with the B model, and then the much longer nosed C model. And let me see what else interesting here. And then it ended up with the Focke Wulf TA152, which only 69 were produced, introduced in 1945 in January. So very late, with a very sleek design on the TA152. And let me see, the Focke Wulf 190 was well liked. A lot of Luftwaffe's most successful fighter aces claimed many of their kills flying it. It had greater firepower than the Bf-109 and at low to medium altitude superior maneuverability, in the opinion of German pilots who flew both fighters. Okay, pretty interesting. And I mean, it's a kind of iconic design. I would say that the Stukas and probably the Bf-109, if you would ask, let's say the maybe not that World War II interested, would probably be able to at least recognize them, maybe not name them. The Focke Wulf maybe not as known, but of course very well known within the World War II. What we call it, the World War II, or let's put it this way, the armchair historians, the ones that are maybe a bit more well versed with World War II history, but and not as kind of you know, just knowing like the basics, but you know, would know some of the aircrafts. Then I think the Focke Wulf would be more known. It is one of the iconic ones, I would say, specifically because of its nose, right? It's very iconic design, but hasn't maybe been featured in as many movies. I don't think like Battle of Britain, 1960s movies with Michael Caine, I think, who was in that. There it's mainly the, well, it's not the Bf-109, it's the Spanish version, but I guess it's that one and the Spitfires. Not sure if there's any Hurricanes. It was a long time since I saw that video, but yeah. And I think also, if we're talking later movies, Dunkirk, Stukas are shown there, the Henkel, the 111 Henkel, and then I guess the Bf-109 and the Spitfires. So you can kind of see the theme. I think this one maybe is kind of on the Hurricane, or getting kind of the Hurricane treatment, you know, seen, well, maybe not as inferior, but maybe not as well known, at least. I would say this one, there's probably more pilots who said that this one was superior to the Bf-109. At least what I've seen, but there's been pilots who says the Bf-109 is better, so who knows. But it's a very beautiful aircraft nevertheless, and as with all aircraft, it's a lot about, you know, give and take, finding a balance what you're trying to achieve, high speed, maybe less maneuverability, etc. But let's jump into the cockpit and let's just check that I have my viewpoints set up. I don't have them, so let's do that as a first step, and hopefully we can get this started without too many issues. I've had from some time to time some issues starting this one. 90% of the time I've been able to start it, so I'm a bit wary since we just flew another aircraft and now we're gonna fly this again, that maybe something could go wrong. Hopefully not. We are gonna fly back here to this airport. I think what we'll do is kind of just fly out here, follow the coast, we'll fly over Calais and then maybe come back and then do a landing. Maybe 2-1 makes sense since the wind was from around 1-5. So we're gonna land here at the Ducaps, or the, as it was called, Saint-Inglevert back in the 40s. Not sure if any Focke Wulfs would have been based at this airport. Well, let me actually check. There's a nice website, World War II German air bases. Luftwaffe airfields, this one, which I think has some information. So for example, France, and let's see if it has about Saint-Inglevert. Here we go. So here's some information. You can see different station commands, but maybe not that much about the specific aircrafts that were based there. But at least, but I guess you could find it based on this information. You can see the operational units, right? And you can see here as well that it doesn't seem to have been used after 1944. And it was thoroughly demolished by retreating Germans in August 44. So actually, this one, Saint-Inglevert wouldn't have really been used by the Focke Wulfs. They came in a bit later in the war. Let me see actually when they're operational, because they were manufactured in 1941, but I guess they started being seen in larger, or at least in larger use during 1942. We'll have to check combat history. Let me see. First stage the combat on the Western Front in August 1941, where it proved superior to the Mk5 Spitfire. Okay. So, but it still, the Spitfire still had the superior turn radius. So roll rate, but in terms of roll rate, speed, acceleration, dive performance, the Focke Wulf 190 was actually very efficient and was able to achieve local air superiority over German skies until the summer of 1942, when improved Spitfire Mk IX was introduced. Okay, very interesting. Very interesting. But in terms of the cockpit, you can see it's a nicer looking cockpit compared to the Bf 109 that we've flown. It also has more click spots, so definitely a better model. We also have a nicer course selector. We can tweak this to select the course. Let's see though. Oh yeah, it doesn't seem to move, so we do know where our aircraft is pointing. There doesn't seem to be an attitude indicator on this version either. That's always interesting. We have an airspeed indicator. I think on the later ones there is definitely an attitude indicator. We have fuel indicator. I think between the, let me see, is it the left and the right? Yeah, rear or forward tanks. You can also see it looks a bit more modern, but maybe that's just a bit of bias. We can open the knee board like this, and you can see kind of the checklist. So we're gonna follow this one, I think that makes sense. Okay, so turn on the gear flap indicator. Oh, well, that's a good. Let me see. Press button, pull gear handle. Okay, I'm not gonna press too much. I'm gonna get it wrong, but I think maybe these ones. Okay, not certain. They're not handling the same. We're not doing an automatic engine start. We're doing a manual one. We can quickly open the canopy. That's the bridge lever though, not the canopy. I think the canopy one is here somewhere. Question is, that's the canopy emergency release though. I think this might be the the normal canopy lever. I don't think that the instrument button or sounds works, but I think some of these sounds, like the canopy one, they do seem to work. Oh, now I managed to close and open it. We'll turn on the batteries and the alternator and master ignition switches. You can see here we have bomb release, machine guns, outboard cannons. This should probably be, yeah, navigational lights, pitot heat right, instrumental panel light switch, nothing that we can see. Yeah, the pitot heat switch, which we can turn on later. The alternate switch, which should be on, that's the master ignition, battery switch. Sure what that sound was, but okay. External battery, we're not gonna use that. Not certain if it was needed actually. It doesn't say anything about that though. Here we also have some other fuses. Maybe all the buttons are just like circuit breakers. Or maybe this is actually buttons, but yeah, not really certain how it worked back in these days. But yeah, you can see some of these: tailplane trim motor, radio, flap motor. So let's see if this is anything we need to press. Not 100% certain, to be honest. Okay, turn on gear flap indicator. Oh yeah, maybe now we can see if they. Is that the indicators? Do we have them on the outside? Yeah, look at that. Very interesting. So that was what was sounding then, I guess, me moving the flaps. Turn on any avionics. We have that on. Let me see. 3 position switch left console. It's gonna be this one, right? So we can transmit. Let's turn it on. Why not? Can't hurt. Fuel cock position to open. It's this one. It's open. And then we want to throttle slightly open, but I think we're supposed to write slightly. Pull the rich lever. So we'll pull that. And then primer. And we'll do a couple of strokes. I think that should be sufficient. Magnetos to position to boat. And then we should start the engine, which is here. And then we'll hold that. And this is the only thing I've noticed, that it sometimes doesn't want to start. And I don't think we have forgotten anything. Could have been if we didn't prime it enough. So let's prime it a bit extra. There we go. So you can see this one is a bit more, how to put it, a bit more advanced maybe than the A2A 109. Once again, it's not a bad one, the 109, but of course a very early model made for another sim, which was never updated. Let me see. Push starter handle, release when it is running. And we should have fuel pumps. Let me see if it's here. Flap motor, gear motor, compass, turn indicator. This one's right. This must be the fuel ones. So we got those on. Pitot heat, we're gonna turn that on because it doesn't hurt to have it on. Specifically dependent on weather. Continue at 1400 RPMs. And 1400 RPM until 45 degrees are reached. And I'm gonna assume that's oil temperature. And that's when we're ready. Altimeters, we can adjust those. This one is in hecto, funnily enough. $312. Let's put that. Or at least this little tooltip shows it in hecto. We do seem to have a tail wheel. We're supposed to unlock it by pushing and holding the rudder stick. Never understood that with this one. Yeah, that's the one. Okay, so you're supposed to push that forward. We can then check brakes. We're supposed to use the differential brakes in turns. Let's see if we can get moving. Seems to demand a bit of power. Let's see if we have. Not sure if it's an automatic. Oh, there we go. We have to push the stick forward to actually be able to get the tail wheel unlocked. So that's something to keep in mind. And here we can see kind of nicely that the rudder's pedal moving. You know, when we're braking, it's actually braking. So that's pretty neat. And it's a very lovely looking aircraft. Not gonna lie. So we're gonna get out to the runway. It does pick up speed pretty quickly though. So we gotta be a bit careful. I'm using both brakes now. But a bit slow. And there we have the... Yeah, it's maybe not the best implementation. We're gonna remove that. But I guess it makes sense. Maybe it's not the easiest to implement, to be honest. And we are gonna taxi... Let's taxi to the right here. And then we'll take off. And then we'll head towards the Saint-Inglevert. And you can see here that it's kind of doing the same as Bf-109. It's not really... it's one of those things I really dislike with P3D with some of these aircrafts. Mainly the older... Or I guess with all kind of fighters, is that if you have like a very wide screen, the game is not really optimized for that. Oh, and we're going really fast now. Yeah, the taxiing is a bit funky with this one, not gonna lie. It kind of takes a long time to get going, and then it throttles up really quickly. So you gotta watch out for that. You can see that we kind of were saved by the fact that there's not that much runway here. Yeah, let's see now. So yeah, a bit more difficult to taxi. Not sure how realistic, but you know, could be worse. Okay, we want to put flaps in the start position. I'm gonna guess that's 10 flaps. Let me see here. Well, we have a takeoff position button. It didn't do anything, so I'm gonna assume 10 is the right position. And I haven't really flown the Focke Wulf in these other games like EL2, so I'm not too familiar with it. But it says here it will lift around 160 to 170 kilometers per hour. We just need to gently pressure the stick, gain a safe altitude and speed about 220 knots or kilometers per hour. We should retract the gear at 220. Retract flaps below 250. Throttle back to climb combat power 3 minutes after takeoff. Best climb speed at 200 to 290 kilometers per hour. 180 miles per hour. Watch oil temperature. 90 degrees may only be exceeded for a short period of time. So I guess we want to avoid pushing this bird too much. Cold flaps usually closed. Where is that switch though? That's something. We have cabin air flap, but is that the same as the cold flap? Not 100% sure then. Oh, there we have the switch, the indicator switch. Sorry, that was wrong. I don't know why I figured it was that one. That was the actual buttons. Let me see though. Do we have any other switches here? Nothing that I can see. Guess that's the radio. Yeah, test button. But you can see a lot of these work, so it's a very well done model. They also have the TA152, but I haven't been able to get that one work. I need to have a look at that too. It would be cool to have that as well. But okay, so we're gonna get up into the air, and then we are just gonna be heading towards Inglevert. Hopefully landing there without issues, but you never know, of course. Okay, so we are starting to push forward the throttle lever, and it's gonna speed up really quickly, right? Oh, it's hard to keep this one on the runway, not gonna lie. I'm using like a lot of right rudder, and we're kind of almost out of the runway from the get-go. Let's see, we'll get the nose down a bit. Can we? Oh, we just were able to take off in time. Bringing those gears up, maybe a bit too soon actually, but yeah, we were on the edge there. Bringing those flaps up, and now we're climbing. It has a bit of a tendency to go to the right, so let me see if I can trim the aircraft a bit with the rudder. Sorry, not to the right, to go to the left, which I guess makes sense. Let's get a nice picture of this bird as well. I'm maybe gonna do like a joint. I didn't like this too much. I don't like when they pitch up too much. I want them to be nicely. Okay, let's see how we can do this. I think we don't have to do a too big of a picture. I'll size them correctly anyway. But okay, in terms of how it performs, it's pretty nice to fly. It does feel like it's a bit of a more thought through flight model. We're gonna bring back a bit the throttle. It is probably though a default flight model, just based on the fact that I couldn't see too many, but I could be wrong, of course. Okay, look at that. Yeah, it does. Can it do turns? Let's see. How fast can we turn with this bird? Okay, so we can make turns, but of course we have to be aware if you pull it too much, it's gonna jump the other way. And there we had it happen again. No, okay, so maybe it's a pretty nice one actually. Kind of realistic. Or what would I know? Never flown one, but at least it feels realistic. Let's put it that way. And there we have the English Channel, another ferry. It's probably going back and forth here. We already have the airport there in front of us. We can make a low pass by before we start thinking about landing. The sound effects are pretty nice from the outside though. They do sound like maybe they have been recorded from the actual aircraft, right? Because there is some Focke Wulf 190s out there that do actually fly. I think the problem is the Bf-109s, right? Are there any actual ones still there? Maybe. Don't know to be honest, but I do think they're quite rare, right? That's why a lot of those Spanish ones are used for movies like Dunkirk or Battle of Britain. So we're doing a low pass by here, saying hi to our mates. And we can see the speed drop off pretty quickly there. Must have been very interesting being like 20 years old or something, being thrown into one of these. Could you really like fathom the responsibility? You know, quick course, go and intercept allied fighters. Jeez, I mean, And now, of course, with the war in Iran and the bombings there, you know, it does get you thinking about this war. You know, it's not, or wars in general. It's not a light affair. Just imagine not only focusing on the fact that you have to be able to land and come home safely without any maintenance issue, but also, you know, being the fear of being shot down. That must have been crazy, right? But yeah, this one flies very nice. I can highly recommend it. It's freeware, right? So go and get it. I mean, it's definitely payware quality. I guess the only minus is that you don't have the clicking sounds, but that rarely is too much of an issue. You can at least hear your mouse click, so that should work as a substitute. Okay, we're gonna throttle back to. Let me see what they wanted. It always, okay, so the engine always draws fuels from both tanks equally. That's good to know. For the landing, we want to reduce 300 kilometers per hour. There we have the runaway. We're a bit off. We're coming in maybe a bit too fast. I'm gonna use gravity and flight dynamics to stop us here. Okay, approach speed about 220, which we're kind of at now. We're going a bit fast. Gotta use or try to use flight dynamics to our favor. But yeah, this one is a bit trickier, I would say, in terms of landing, and I think that's also the case in real life, actually. So maybe not too wrong. Touchdown at around 160 kilometers per hour. So let's see if we're able to accomplish that. Maybe we're gonna go a bit too slow. Oh, that wasn't the best. Oof, we are breaking these wheels with this bouncing. Oh no, we're gonna hit the guys here. Ah, thank God. There was nothing else here. Let's see if we can though avoid going off the cliff. Could be correct. I mean, it's a pretty strong engine in the Focke Wulf, right? So I mean, I would guess there's some idle. The only thing I didn't get, kind of, you have to use a lot of thrust to get it moving. But of course, could have been the case. But yeah, the thing to remember is to push forward the yoke or the joystick in order to get the tail wheel unlocked. Something to keep in mind. And we're just gonna now park here in front of one of these little covers, and then we are gonna wrap up for today. It's been a lot of fun actually doing these. I kind of like sometimes doing these smaller videos without too much of a purpose. Just, you know, showcasing an aircraft and flying for fun. It's good to remember that, you know, simulator, game, whatever you want to call it, you know, you're just doing it to, you know, pass time, do something fun, immerse yourself. Can be done in multiple ways. Doesn't always have to be too serious. So we are gonna shut this bird down. I think the easiest way is to shut the fuel. That usually does the trick. And yeah. Let's open the canopy. And let's actually check if we have any options with these different shift 2 opens the radio. And otherwise that's kind of it, right? You don't have any further options now that I'm looking at it. Let's see if there's anything else. Can't see anything else. Seems like we don't have GSX open. So maybe good that we flew this instead of having flown airliner. But yeah, we used a bit of fuel, but nothing too much. We had ammo. Don't think you can shoot that. At least I don't think so. Let me see, maybe if I open with these compass, gear motor, gear switches, converter, flap motor. Did we have MG here? Maybe not. Maybe that's a different button. Here we go. Right wing cannon, left wing cannon. Okay, so doesn't seem like there's any sort of button to press here that would get us shooting. Oh, maybe this is a cover to not shoot by mistake. Very interesting design, to be honest. But yeah, that's it. Hopefully you enjoyed this bit of a random video. I'm still gonna feature some more German planes. Definitely the Milvis, the Junker Stuka, and then the airplane Heaven, Henkel 111, and the Focke Wulf, the Condor, the freeware one. So those three I'm 100% sure I'm gonna feature, and then let's see if I can find any other good ones for those of you who are interested in, or actually at the A2A, the Henkel 219, I think. That one I will also. I haven't bought that one yet, but I'm definitely gonna get it at some point. But let's see when. So yeah, there's a nice collection of different planes for B3D. So for those of you who just want to fly, enjoy the landscapes, and fly wherever you want, there's some nice options. But yeah, with that said, thank you for watching. Have a good rest of the day, and bye bye.